G'day, fans of the NPL. Now, my name is TheVerd, and I am a certified analyst and a bona fide finalist of the Summer Showdown tournament. And this right here, this is Matty Brollic, and he is 8-0, and you can't teach that. Realist guys not in the same room, how you doing? Anyway.
What is going on, NPL fans? You got Matty Brollic on the Analyst channel back once again, and I feel good to be here.
I feel like it wouldn't be a Matty Brollic recording though if we didn't have you do your classic intro though. So you wanna give the fans just a little bit of a taste?
All right. You know what? I'm feeling generous, so. Ooh. What is going on, everybody? You got Matty Brollic here joining TheVerd for the Week 8 Power Rankings.
Ladies, if that doesn't make you tremble, I don't know what is going to. I'm just saying. Like, when I hear that, it's like I see it in my head as like little O's and big O's being typed out, in a message. Oh, it's crisp. Anyway, jokes aside, we are here for Week 8 of the NPL Power Rankings. As I told you guys the week before, Parker is currently taking over for the New York Matangs, and unfortunately, as we know, Bob is no longer an analyst here, so I've been bringing in celebrity coaches, I guess you could say, to help me out with my recordings, and Matty was very kind and generous to step up this week and help out, and I am more than happy to have him here. If you guys don't know who Matty Brollic is when it comes to the NPL, I don't know what you're doing with your life. I've had him at number 1 since the first power ranking, and he has shown me exactly why he deserves to be number 1, and who knows, maybe this week, miraculously, he will stay at number 1, but we will have to wait and see. But without further ado, Matty, are you ready to crack into these power rankings?
Oh, I am more than ready.
Alright, so kicking things off here with our bottom 4. Now for me, from last week, it hasn't really changed. Sure, the Matangs got a win, and that's great for Parker, phenomenal that he was able to get a victory, but the Matangs are still, I believe, 2-5 or 2-6 right now. I'm not too sure of their record, but they're still down to that spot, away from the bigger group, because they still have a lot of losses, and obviously the Sunflora and Leopards are stuck at the bottom, still with no victories, haven't really seen them move, and of course Danza went up against you, and you kind of just gave him the work over. So I don't think necessarily Danza and Parker have been playing too bad. I don't even think anybody has been playing too bad this season. I just feel these are probably the 4 teams right now that I see are kind of struggling the most in this league. But how do you see these bottom 4? Obviously, are they the same bottom 4 for you, or do you have it a bit different?
Yeah, mine are almost exactly the same. I just happen to have the Austin Toros where the Nido Kings are in my rankings, just because I know Rob is a great player, but the thing is, I'd love to see him come here and play great. He played, I believe, 3 games earlier on in the season, and he did fairly well, but I definitely expect to see a little bit more out of him, and he hasn't been playing since then. I believe maybe he played 1 more game or so, but he didn't play more than 4 games. I'm almost positive, and his last 4 games have all been decided by another coach. So that's why I would like to see him. I think he's returning this week, so I would like to see him come in and really show what he's made of before I want to move him over someone who, although has the same record, someone who's been here this whole season and has been fighting on his own, like Danza.
True, and I mean, last week Danza did have a pretty solid win. It was just, I guess, this week he was kind of humbled again, and it's just looking at how Danza's been performing against the top half competitors compared to the bottom half, and just showing maybe either it's the team or himself that just needs to kind of lift a little bit when it comes to his battles. But I definitely feel like Danza is a good enough battler that he can get himself back into this. I guess he's just going to come up to those important divisional matches where he's really going to have to prove himself there. But do you have any thoughts about the Matang, Sunflora, and Leopards that have been sitting at the bottom of this power rankings for a long time now?
Yeah, I wrote down a few notes about each one. For Cypher, I just don't really feel like he's very invested in our league, and that's kind of disappointing just because I understand at this point mathematically playoffs. So I mean, maybe if everyone loses, he could still get in. Like if everyone loses their last 4 games, there's a lot of 4-4 teams in his conference. But I don't know. It just seems like he's not really too into it. His team is probably my least favorite of all the drafts, and I don't know. I just don't see this guy really putting in the effort that it takes to do well in the MPL. So I am rooting for him to get a win. Don't get me wrong. I never want anyone to go winless, because that's just you're not going to have a lot of fun going winless. And this is all about having fun. But I would like to see him get a real legitimate win. I would like to see him work for his win, and the way things are going right, it's the more he loses, the less he's trying in a sense. And maybe that's not true. Maybe he really just is struggling and having an off season. But I know. Just by watching his channel, I see him, playing well in other leagues. So, that's kind of all I can say there. I just hope he puts in a little more effort.
Mm-hmm. And anything, I guess, obviously the thing with Riz is that he's come off winning the Battle Union, so I kind of felt that maybe this week against Cloud he could get back to that form, and he's done all these amazing redrafts. But Cloud, I mean, there was some levels of hacks in the battle, I guess, that could have maybe decided things. I mean, with the Aero late game, I talked to Cloud after battle, the Aero did have Raw, so it really came down to whether Gator was going to be able to kill it when it was burned at +1 with the waterfall from there. So that was kind of what it came down to. But in the end, it was a fantastic battle, and Riz definitely played better than he has for the last couple of weeks, for sure.
Yeah, this is the thing with Riz. I agree, definitely. I think that I don't know, I still feel like his team was one of the best drafts of the entire season. I know he doesn't feel that way because he isn't comfortable with those Pokemon, and that's completely respectable, because you're only as good as, as comfortable you are with the Pokemon that you drafted. And if he really isn't as comfortable even with some of the amazing Pokemon he drafted, then understandably he wouldn't do as well as someone else may do with them. But I think that if he... I always felt all of his matches, there was always a little something that got in the way. Either it was a little bit of hacks, maybe a couple misplays here and there, that really just held him back from getting a lot of wins. Because all of his games have been really close, pretty much, and exciting to watch. So I just feel like, had he also gone the extra mile just to really adapt to his team and learn how to use it, I think that he would have been a playoff contender without a doubt, at the very least, because Riz is an amazing player, and just seeing how he won the Battle Union, how far he made it in the Summer Showdown tournament, 2 years in a row he made the brackets and everything, it just goes to show that he is a heck of a player. But I think that with him being in another league, and especially that he was doing well in that other league, he was probably more invested in that and didn't take, that extra time to really adapt to his team in the MPL, which I think held him back a little bit, because had he done a few things differently in a bunch of those games, he could have come out on top and had a very different record than 0-8. And then for Razor, I just have that, he hasn't really been around either, so he's had people fill in for him, but he's got an amazingly scary team, and he does have 2 wins, so he is 2-6, and that is definitely nicer than being 0-8.
Definitely, and Parker did play the team very, very well in his last match, but that being said, it was against Cypher, so as much as it's a win, it's, as bad as it sounds, it's not as credible as a win as it would be against, a team further up, I guess, in your mindset of like rankings and whatnot. I'm not saying beating Cypher is an easy win by any standards. I'm more saying that it wasn't, I guess, as impressive as it would have been, for him to beat someone like Aberforth or Jolt, or even Trev for that matter. So we'll have to see how Parker goes with the team for the next couple of weeks, but I definitely feel like he is a phenomenal battle. I had one of the best battles of the tournament against him in the Summer Showdown League, and I know how good he can be as a battler, and I definitely feel like he can take this team a bit, possibly progressing up the rankings, because now with 2 wins, there's a lot of teams just above him that are sitting on 3 wins that he can easily close in on. So we could see a bit of a shift in the rankings in the future, but we're going to move out of that bottom 4 spot now for a little bit. Oh, one thing also just to note, guys, with Riz's team, after this week, this round that's just gone past, he actually made a transaction. He made a trade, I believe, with the Florida Feraligators, where he traded his Amoonguss for Breloom. So that can be kind of interesting. I mean, he gains Breloom, but he already had Mega Medicham, so it's going to be interesting to see how those two kind of function together on the same team. But the fact that he has Scolipede being able to pass speed into Breloom is a pretty terrifying thought. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. I mean, he loses the defensive Pokemon though, so I'm guessing Riz is looking more now at a bit more of a aggressive play style. But do you have anything to say about that transaction at all?
Yeah, I agree. I think that could be incredibly frightening. And Riz's team is just so powerful that he doesn't even need to worry about a defensive core because, yes, obviously it's nice to have a balance, but there's no game that he cannot win with those ridiculously powerful Pokemon. Like, there's some way that he can pull it through because he'll have everyone on the ropes with all those offensive threats. I know playing him was one of the scariest things I've had to do all season, despite the fact that, I was going into that game 6-0 and he was going into it 0-6. That was one of my toughest matchups. And even playing the match was just very, very stressful. So I know that he could get some big wins without a doubt, but I believe he's been mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. I'm not 100% sure, but I think he has. So that's kind of unfortunate, but like I said, Riz is great, and I would love to see him get some wins because he's such a great addition to the MPL, and I hope he sticks with it for sure.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those seasons where, a lot of battlers have it. It's just a season where things that you did maybe in other leagues or other things just don't go your way, whether it be through hacks or bad prep or whatnot, and he'll definitely bounce back, and I think, the NPL would welcome him back with open arms next season, regardless of his result this season, so he definitely shouldn't feel disheartened by his performance this season, because the team is still solid, and there's still a chance to reconcile some wins and move himself up the rankings, definitely, I feel. But we're going to move on, because that took a while to get through the bottom four, but we're going to move up now to the next group of four that we have. Like, don't get me wrong, I love the discussion, but we want to make sure it doesn't go for, 2 hours. As much as I'd love a 2-hour chat, I think the viewers might be a little bit like,
I always ramble.
It's okay, I do the same thing, so it's weird having a second rambler here, because I'm always on with people that just say, really short sentences, and I'm there like, well, I'm gonna talk for a while. But anyway, moving on to the next section, I obviously, like I said, had Danza at the 13th spot, and in the 12th spot, I actually, before the Austin Taurus, had the San Antonio Swamperts. The reason why I had the Swamperts lower than the Taurus is because, part of me knew that when Rob comes back, I'm expecting things to pick up for the Taurus. If Rob comes back and plays, a lot of the opponents he's played, or will play again, I feel he has the opportunity to beat them, and can actually get quite good results, because his team is fantastic. It's one of the best drafted teams in the entire league, so he definitely has the ability to be able to win with it. I guess the reason why I have the Swamperts just a little bit lower is because, for me, the Swamperts have been very erratic, in the sense that, sometimes they'll win, and when they win big, and it's great. But what's been happening a lot more often is that they're getting humbled a lot by their opponents. They have put in a few good performances. I believe, is Dallas back coaching the team yet, or is he still not coaching the team?
Yeah, no, I believe they're both returning this week, both Rob and Dallas.
So that's why I had them both a bit lower, is that just because they haven't really been taking care of their own teams, and I guess it is a bit harsh to have Danza maybe below them. I just feel that Danza, from where I had him at the start of the season ranked second, expecting big things, he just hasn't exceeded my he hasn't met my expectations, so that's why I have him a bit lower. But I definitely feel that Rob and Dallas both have to lift their game, because this middle area of the rankings is incredibly tight, and a good result or a bad result either way definitely shifts a lot of momentum, and I feel like those three teams there are all in the same boat, where I'm expecting them to start to really pick it up and do well, or else, teams like the Matangs and the Sunflora could potentially be breathing down their neck coming into the last few weeks. But who do you have in that little kind of area there?
Yeah, for me, for number 12 and 11, I have Danza, and then at number 11, I have the Swamperts. Now, for Danza, I think his team is great. Just going up against it, it seemed like even though there were some Pokemon I had that could do tons of work against him, at the same time, I just felt like he had answers for all of those things. And his team was, although it doesn't jump out as tons of superstars, it's just so well balanced and synergized that it could pretty much, put him in every game. Even if he does have a little bit of a tough matchup, he should have ways to play around those, which, listening to your power rankings, that was definitely something that you looked for in drafts. And I think that's huge as well. And he's an amazing player. And I think that when he's on his game, he can beat absolutely anybody at any time. And if he does get his head back in the game, because I know his confidence is shaken and he's feeling a little bit lower, if he can turn that around, he will definitely fly up the power rankings. There's no doubt about it. But, right now he has lost his momentum. And until he gets that back, and if he gets that back, then I don't really see him moving up too much higher from here. But like I said, he's got the potential to. And then as for the Swamperts, he hasn't been playing Dallas. You know, he has been leaving his team up to Dan, and Dan did an okay job. I think that he a couple of his wins were kind of hacksy. Well, one of them was hacksy. One of them was on a choke by Riz, I believe. And yeah, overall, he at least he did get 2 more wins for the Swampers, but I can't put them above any other 4-4 team because Dallas hasn't been playing. So now he's returning, and if Dallas is going to move up, it's going to be on his own terms.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like one thing to point out as well with Danza is, like I said, I'm not trying to bash Danza because Danza on his day can beat anybody in this league. Like, he is a phenomenal battler. I just think that his confidence through hacks and other things has really affected him. And I think if he can just get his head back in the game and do some of the things like he did in week 7 with that fantastic Reuniclus set, you know, bring in that kind of oh my god, I had the word and I lost it. I'm going to say ingenuity. It wasn't the word. Innovation, that's the word. Bring that innovation to the league is what he needs to do because he has the team that can be quite innovative and fantastic. So I think he's definitely, like I said, it's very tight-knit in there, and one big result can like skyrocket you up those rankings because it is very tight in that middle part. And speaking of the middle part, finishing off that little group of the top 4, I have the Jersey Dwebbles at number 10, and the Florida Gators at number 9. Now, the Dwebbles came off a pretty solid win against Riz. Yeah, there was some hacks factored in, but I felt Cloud prepped quite well for the match. I think that's been one of his issues. He's had some issues when it comes to prep, and he did quite well, and the battling was solid. Like, the match maybe was decided by potential hacks. It really depends on, you know, who you believe when it comes to sets and whatnot, but I think he battled well, and he's the same, though, kind of in the same boat as the Swamperts and whatnot, is that he can battle very well, but his losses show a lot more than his wins. Like, his wins are okay. He'll make those really risky plays, like that Mega Arrow play against, I think, the Kieran Black, or the Sableye, whatever it was. Like, those are the kind of plays amazing, but then you also have those times where he, you know, like I think it was round 2 against Danza, where he got just destroyed by Crobat. So, I think, you know, because he has the 2 polar opposites, it's very hard to put him higher in the rankings, because when you get to game day, you don't know which Cloud you're going to see. It's just, like I said, it's that whole erratic kind of thing with these guys in this positioning where, although they can do some fantastic things and win battles, they can also fail gloriously, and it's not great. Like, obviously, I want to see everybody in this league do well, but it's like you have to face the facts that sometimes when these guys battle, if they lose, they can lose quite badly. And I think it won't affect Cloud's confidence too much because he is a pretty confident guy, but I think he definitely can do a lot better than he has been doing, and I'm hoping with the fact that he has Mega Aerodactyl in the team now, that it can actually put in a bit more work from him and lift him higher up the rankings. But with the Gators, they've been kind of like, I've had them getting to the point of almost breaking into that top 4 because their form has been really solid. They did get a bit of a speed bump this week though, and I dropped them down lower than I expected to just because, as I said, and I've said for the last couple of weeks, it is so close in these rankings that loss for the Gators opened the door for like so many teams that were initially below them to go above them just because they've got more form, they've got more momentum, and it's just such a tight-knit race there. I don't necessarily think that Top Tier Boy has been doing bad at all. I think the team is actually going phenomenally well. It just shows how close this league is in that middle section and how hard it is and competitive it is to get those good spots. I just feel that out of the middle group of teams, he was just the worst performing for the last week, and that's why he sits pretty much smack bang in the middle. But who do you have for those 2 spots there?
Okay, so if you are an MPL fan, because, you know, although I am like a current and active coach, like I love the MPL and I'm still like a fan of everything that goes on in the league. So just to sit back and enjoy the fact that like there are so many teams that are vying for a playoff spot right now is just really exciting because, you know, you just don't know what's going to happen. And like Verd keeps saying, it is so close-knit that who knows who's going to come out on top here. Honestly, no one knows, and anything can happen at this point, which makes it really exciting for any type of NPL fan. But for these, you know, number 10 and 9 spots, kind of starting with the 4-4 teams, I know Dallas is 4-4 as well, but, you know, I just put him lower because he hasn't been playing. But at number 10, I actually have Trev and the Atlanta Braviaries. Now, I know Trev being at number 10 in any league is pretty surprising because he's just an amazing draft league player. But the thing is, he's been on a bit of a slump he's been in a bit of a slump in the NPL this season in general, but I know his Week 7 game was lost to a bit of hacks, but he definitely misplayed that game as well. And then Week 8 against Cheeseboy, he just got run right through. And I was pretty surprised just because I know Cheese is a good team and Cheese is a great player, but Trev easily has one of the scariest draft teams I've ever seen. And to see him, coming out and just getting destroyed like that is pretty surprising, in my opinion. Because, listen, I know people talk about how Trev's gotten lucky in the past, but I've seen him up front and how good he is and how good he can be. So I definitely think he could bounce back. But right now, the fact that he's in a slump, I definitely think that that's why he's a bit lower than a lot of the other 4-4 teams, because right now he just doesn't have the momentum. Like at number 9, I have Cloud, who is actually on a 2-game win streak, but his Week 7 game, he did win on a choke by Cheese, which was great that he capitalized on that. I always say that if you are in a bad spot, sometimes you have to play for the choke, and he did that, which is great. But at the same time, he wasn't in position to win, which just goes to show that maybe his prep or early game playing wasn't as good as it could have been. And then this week, he won, not totally based off hacks or anything. He played well, and it was a very good game against Riz, but, he was in a position to lose that game had he not gotten as lucky as he did. Not to say that he got so lucky, but regardless, he wasn't in a convincing position to win. And I think for him to move up, his wins need to be more convincing.
I'm just still like, Trev at 10th has me like, what? I'm not arguing that at all, because like I said, it's so close that literally I could easily have put Trev 10th as well. Like, I would say the positions from about 5th in my rankings to 10th are very hotly contested. Even the positions from, I'd say, 5th down to 13th are super, super close. But like we said, that's what we love about this league, guys. This is quite possibly one of the most competitive leagues I have ever seen, for the sense that, like, from Danza for me at 13th up to who I have even at 4th, it is like 2 games in it. Like 2 games separate such a huge gap. Well, I just knocked my headphones out. Such a huge gap in the league, and it just shows how competitive and intense. And this is why you need to keep following and watching the NPL, because every week matters now for these teams. But rolling into the top 8 now, and at number 8 I actually have the Boston Beedoofs. I had them a little bit lower last week because I think they had a bit of a bad result, but he picked himself back up. I believe he also picked up a win this week. And, he's one of those teams, kind of like the Gators, where he'll win, then he'll lose, then he'll win, then he'll lose. And it's just, I guess there's consistency because he win, lose, but I think, you have someone like Cloud who's on a 2-win streak, and you want to see more teams like that, the ones that can take the momentum of a win, carry it into their next game, and then build on from that. Because a lot of these teams in the middle here, they'll have a win, then they'll have a loss, and they'll have a win and a loss, and there's never really any big momentum built up to propel them, I guess, higher in the standings or in the rankings for that matter. And I guess that's why Trev also finds himself here. He's at number 7 for me, so he has dropped down a bit since last time, because he has been playing pretty trash. Like, I completely 110% agree with you. He has the best draft on paper. Like, on paper, he should win a lot of his matches, and I think what it comes down to is the strategy of it all. And, the ways that Trevor's trying to use the team, honestly, they just aren't working. He's not, I don't know if he's not using the team properly, or he is just coming up with ideas that he feels will work, but are just, in practice, kind of falling a bit flat. Like, don't get me wrong, I have the biggest respect for Trev. If anybody has respect for Trev after what he did for me in the Summer Showdown tournament, it is me. So, I think that, I guess it's more just me looking at Trev and saying, like, you've got a really good team and you are a really good battler. I want to see you do well, because he will always stay in the hunt for playoffs. And if he can take this team to playoffs, it's going to be the hardest team to beat, probably out of all the teams here in a playoff format. I guess it's just, like he said, the last couple of weeks, he hasn't been performing as well as he should, and I want to see more from him. I want to see the Trev that won the NPL last season, not hacks-wise, but battling-wise, has the ability to get himself into that finals position, or the Trev that was in the Summer Showdown tournament, who was able to propel a team to the final. I want to see that kind of Trev, not this Trev that's, got an amazing team, but just can't seem to make it work. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But who do you have at 8 and 7?
For me, number 8, I do have the Boston Bidoof as well. Now, the Bidoofs have, in my opinion, Bidoof himself has the potential to be one of the best players in the league. I mean, when he plays well, he reminds me of Danza in that sense, where he is just phenomenal. His prediction game sometimes is ridiculous, and overall, when he's focused and he's dialed in, he does not really misplay, and his prep is very good for a guy who is just joined a draft league for the first time. So I think that if he could just improve his team a little bit, because although my team doesn't particularly match up too well against his, I think that against a lot of other teams it may not have as good of a matchup. So maybe his team is lacking a little bit in that department. If he could make a few good enhancements, I really think that he could be a top threat in the playoffs this season, as he is 4-4, and he finally broke a losing streak. But he needs to be consistent, like you said. He keeps kind of going with some wins and some losses back and forth. So if he could be consistent and kind of get on a roll and maybe improve his team, I definitely think that he could be one of the biggest threats. And then for number 7, I have a top-tier boy in the Florida for Alligators. Now, this was tough because I felt like being that he's on a 2-game losing streak, maybe I should have put him a little bit lower. But it's just when it comes to top-tier boy, he is a great player and has a very good team. So he's just loaded with the tools to really do well and propel himself to the playoffs and potentially knock off some huge names. But the problem is with him is that he needs to fix his mindset on the whole, expecting what he thinks makes sense from his opponent. Because, number 1, what he thinks makes sense may not actually make sense in all situations. Number 2, what he thinks makes sense may not make sense to his opponents. Number 3, what he thinks makes sense may not be what his opponent wants to bring, because he doesn't want Sebastian to know what he's going to bring. So he'll bring something that doesn't make sense. It can catch him off guard. And I think that's what's holding him back right now, because that's kind of how he's been losing most of his games this season. And he has been getting unlucky, no doubt about it. This game against Abe, he got his Regirock crit by an energy ball, and then I believe at the end, the Chestnut crit a Manectric. I don't know if that mattered, though, because I think the Chestnut was Jolly and the Manectric was Modest, so I think it would have outsped anyway into a KO'd. But regardless, he has been getting hacked in some of his losses, no doubt about it, and that's one of the reasons I do have him so high, because some of his losses, I think, he could have been a little bit, he could have possibly come out on top had he knocked out in hacks. So with him, I think he's got the tools, like I said, but he's got to fix that mentality, or else it's going to bite him in the butt, considering everyone is so close behind him in that playoff race, or even in front of him. So he's got to really step it up in these next few weeks, which I know he can.
Yeah, definitely. And again, I say it way too many times, but it's so true. Don't feel like, if we put a team a bit lower than you guys are expecting, it's because we think the team is bad. It's because it is so tight-knit that we are literally like nitpicking the tiniest reasons to say that one team is maybe better than the other. And honestly, they're so close to each other that it's very hard to kind of distinguish between them. Like, I see almost like a huge group there where, like, every week, just certain results will change their positions. And that's the case in point with my next 2 that are both moved up because of results from other teams. Obviously, the Gators losing and the Braviaries losing has propelled the Phoenix Sunkern to number 6 for me. I think that Cheese has been playing exceptionally well. Definitely the better Phoenix team. And he has a fantastic team, and he's been using it really well. Yeah, he got a bit unfortunate against Cloud because he made that one play, but you know what? He was doing, I guess what you would say is a calculated play, and he was trying to, think it through, and against Trev, he played quite solidly as well, and I think he's been a little bit more consistent than the battlers kind of below him. I feel that, he's had a couple of bad losses, but for the majority of the season, he has been consistent and solid with the way that he's been playing, and the results are really starting to show, and I think he's making a really good run and a really good claim now for the playoffs, and definitely if he can keep this form up, he may find himself getting himself into that top 4. But I've definitely been impressed lately by his performances. And then at number 5, I have the Brisbane Braylons. I think that they were very close to overtaking the Toronto Raptors, if not for the fact that I believe both teams still haven't played, I think it was their round 6 match yet. I think that's still on the back burner. And it's just that part of me saying that I can't for certain say that the Breloom would win that and then the Staraptor would lose that, and then, things would change. It's just a bit of a Schrodinger's battle, so I can't really say it for either way. So for now, because the Staraptors still do have the better record as it stands, I'm just putting the Breloom at 5th. I think the changes that Aberforth made to his team have completely changed the complexion of it. Initially, I wasn't a huge fan of the draft. It didn't really sync well with me, but now he has so many things that work well together. And I mean, this week he perfectly executed the Trick Room team. And, sure, maybe the defense boost on Diancie affected the battle a little, but I still feel like with Diancie being able to clean up a few mons that it would have, it definitely opened the door for Aberforth to go on and get that win. And the Breloom are definitely breathing down the Staraptors and Carvanha's neck. So definitely the same with the Sunkern. So just got to keep an eye, I think, on those two teams. But who do you have as your number 5 and 6?
For me, at number 6, I actually have the Breloom because they have played their Week 6 games, so they are up to date and they're 4-4. So that's why I have them here, because they're the last 4-4 team on the list, so I put them here instead of putting them over someone who had a better record. But like you said, they do have a lot of momentum right now, and they are breathing down the necks of a lot of the teams ahead of them. And when it comes to Aberforth, the first thing I think of is a spark plug, because he has been one of the most inconsistent coaches this season. But when he plays well, he could just be a nightmare to face, because going into the season, I thought that he was easily going to be a top team because I know how great of a player he is, and his draft was pretty good. But now that he made that trade with the Staraptors, I think he got the better end of that deal, and he is definitely showing that, as he is looking really strong right now. And if he could keep up that type of play and keep working on his preparation, because I know he kind of rushes with his prep and just kind of goes right into his games. I think if he can continue the more thorough prep and improve with that, then he's absolutely playoff bound, or at least going to be one of the closer guys in the nitty-gritty race. But yeah, right now, just because he is 4-4 and has been inconsistent throughout the season, I couldn't put him ahead of number 5. I have Jolt, who is 4-3 because he didn't play his Week 6 match like you mentioned. So now the reason I have him behind the Phoenix Sunkern, outside of the fact that the Phoenix Sunkern have a slightly better record, is because Jolt played very well against Gypsy and the Sydney Sharpedos, who are clearly, a top team. Now, it was 4-0 loss, and that is a pretty big differential, and it wasn't like any type of sweep. It was just a long, drawn-out battle where Gypsy just wore Jolt's team down and took the win at 4-0. But I think that match was closer than it looked. I think that Jolt played really well, and had certain things gone his way, maybe it would have been a little bit closer. But the thing is, the reason I have him at number 5 instead of being higher is I just don't think his team is good enough right now to carry him much higher than where he's at right now, because Jolt's playing in prep is phenomenal, and there's no reason that if he had a better team that he would not be much closer to the top. And I think that if he can make some changes in the coming weeks, then he definitely will move up, changes that work and that work well for him. But, if he does kind of keep the team that he has, he likes the team that he has. I think he's comfortable with the Pokemon that he has, but I just don't know if they're good enough to beat a lot of other teams in his division or even in his conference. For example, look at Gypsy's. I think he played that so well, and I had some mocks against Gypsy to help him for that game, and I couldn't beat him with Jolt's team, not even close. So, and that's even when I knew some of his sets and everything. So that just goes to show that Jolt, his matchup there is bad. He's been playing well this whole season, and he still has 3 losses. So that's why I think he needs to maybe change his team up a little bit to move up higher, because he really has been making mistakes. So the fact that he's 4-3 maybe just reflects on his team.
Yeah, no, I definitely get where you're coming from. And again, a lot of teams like the Breloom, Sunkern, even the Braviary still, although Trevor's on a bit of a losing streak, they're definitely right at Jolt's neck. And if he does get the result that goes his way for that round 6 match, then it's good. But I do have him, as we get into the top 4 now, I do have him at number 4. Pretty sure you've got Cheese at number 4 there. So reason why I have Jolt just a little bit above still is because, yeah, he did kind of get the rough end of the deal with Aberforth, but I feel, yeah, he didn't play great against Gypsy, but it's still the fact for me that it's Jolt. And this season, Doesn't matter if, people have said he has a kind of subpar team. Like, initially, when it came to the draft recap, a lot of people didn't, feel that Jolt had a super strong team. Like, he had a couple of really good mons. The rest was a bit, wish-washy. And he was getting fantastic results, like that week 1 match against Trev, where he absolutely destroyed him. So, I definitely feel like Jolt is the kind of guy that, even not with the best team, has the battling skills to be able to make it work. And I think that's what we've been seeing so far with this team. And yeah, his matchup against Gypsy isn't great, and, he may struggle with that, but what it may lead to is a bit more, creativity and ingenuity from Jolt. Instead of, sometimes he can go with the kind of standard, so it'll be good to see Jolt kind of really think, super outside the box if he needs to beat Gypsy, which sometimes you're going to have to do. So you're going to have to think so far outside the box that it breaks belief, and he might be able to do that and get the result, and it might be the best push that he could get, because it gives Jolt that kind of challenge now. I think that loss is actually probably the best thing that could have happened to Jolt, because it's kind of brought him to this point of saying, okay, I got all these guys breathing down my neck. If I don't play well now, I'm going to drop further down the rankings and my standings. So I keep him at number 4 because I feel Jolt is a fighter and a good fighter, and when the chips are down, he's going to be able to rise to the occasion, and I see him being able to hold that top 4 spot. Well, I'm hoping he can hold that top 4 spot. But in at number 3 for me is Togue and the Arizona Carvanas. They have been pretty solidly at number 3 for a while now. It's just a really solid team. Like, to be fair, there's nothing crazy about the team. I don't feel like, sure, it's a flinch core, but other than that, it's just a very, very solid team that he's been using fantastically well. Yeah, he's had a couple of losses. I think a couple of losses. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 2 losses so far this season. But regardless, he has been one of those battlers that he's been very, very consistent. I've been talking about these other players being very erratic, going win-loss, win-loss. Yeah, a couple of times Togue has lost, and it's been unfortunate. But he's bounced back, and he bounced back in full force. I mean, that Porygon 2 set was ridiculous. I have never seen Porygon 2 get used that way before. That was a new one for me. And the fact that's what I'm saying with people like Jolt. That's the kind of creativity you need, because what kind of opponent is going to predict and build for a set like that? Nobody's going to expect that, and that just showed that the losses, as much as they sucked for Togue, have brought out the best in him, and he has come back in the best way possible. And I feel that, he is cementing himself into that playoff race, and that chance, really, he's cementing himself into that championship race, because I think he's played Gypsy, and it was unfortunate hacks against him. He hasn't played you. I don't know if you guys play each other for the season at all, but I definitely feel like he is going to be a big threat when it comes around to playoffs. But who do you have for your 4 and 3?
Yeah, I completely agree. Now, for number 4, I have Cheese Boy and the Phoenix Sunkern. Now, when it comes to Cheese, I think that he's proven that even with all of the risen competition that we've gotten in the NPL this season, I mean, this league is just really stacked from top to bottom. Even with all this great new competition, he's still remained a top team, even with a lot of Pokemon he's never used before in the format. So that just goes to show that Cheese is just an amazing player. And one thing about Cheese is that when it comes to prep, he's good at knowing what Pokemon will do well in the match, but he's not someone who puts a lot of time and thought into prep and really coming up with the best sets that not only will really do the most work, but also catch his opponent off guard. He's not really too good or keen with that, and I don't think he really is into mocks or anything like that either. So I think that those are the only things that are really holding him back this season. I mean, he's 5-3 in a really tough conference with playing a lot of tough teams and having a lot of difficult matchups. He's remained a 5-3 team, and last week his loss to Cloud was just kind of on a choke, which yes, that is on him, but the play totally made sense. It wasn't like Cheese made this just huge brain fart. He just kind of slipped up there and didn't realize that I guess he had a much better chance to win had he not made that play. But regardless, I think that he is just a huge threat to this league because he always plays well. It's very rare to see Cheese make big misplays, and with a scary team like that, that is just tough to battle against. It's tough to prepare against, even though you may know what's coming because he plays pretty standardly. But just a guy who can come out with a scary team and play well almost every game
is very threatening. And I think that if he can improve his prep a little bit more as the season goes on, then he can hold this number 4 spot or move up even more, because just from playing Cheese Boy in the past myself, outside of this season, I just know that he is easily one of the best battlers I've ever seen in the format. So he could definitely hold the spot and potentially move up, like I said, but I think that he's really going to need to take his prep to the next level to really move up in this league, because it is just so darn good. So for number 3, I also have Togue, and you pretty much covered everything there. I think it's amazing to see how well he's doing despite getting so unlucky this season. It's so ironic that he drafted a Haxie type team. I mean, not the whole team is Haxie, but he does have, the Hax core and Mega Pidgeot, which could spam perfectly accurate hurricanes and get confusions. But, regardless of that, he has been haxed. Yes, he got one win with Hax against Abe, but he got haxed so much during that match too. So, yeah, he really has been very unlucky this season, and has still remained 6-2, which is awesome. Huge shout outs to him, because a lot of people just get so discouraged after all that type of hacks and don't even want to play anymore. So my hat's off to him there, because that is amazing. Like you said, I don't think his team is anything crazy special, but Togue is one of the best preparers I've ever met. So I think that with the tricky team that he has and all the interesting options, he could go incredibly far in this league, and I am definitely looking forward to seeing how he does in the upcoming weeks. As the playoff race gets tight, he's definitely in a great spot.
Yeah, for sure. And with that, guys, we come to the final 2, and realistically, guys, who were you actually expecting? Who else would have possibly made the top 2 than the 2 teams that are currently 8-0 over the halfway point of the season, which is ridiculous. Now, I can almost predict this now, because I actually don't know who Matty is ranked at 1 and 2, but I feel like Matty's going to be humble, and he's going to put Gypsy above himself. I don't know how big Matty's ego really is, but for me, Gypsy is second. And in the past few weeks, I'm sure you've been watching, I have my reasons, and I think it's still true today. Don't get me wrong, Gypsy battled perfectly against Jolt. That is just the epitome of, executing a strategy to perfection. That's what Gypsy can do, a lot of the time, and he explains his players so well. And against Jolt, he had a strategy going into it, he implemented the strategy, he got the win against a very, very competent competitor. So hats off to him for there. But in the past, he has had some incidences where some of his wins can be seen as fortunate or due to hacks, and sometimes I just feel, his battles are a lot closer. But I mean, for me, there is only still one number 1. I'm not sure, it's not because you're in the call I'm saying this, legit. I reckon every battle I've seen you do, you have a plan going into it, and I swear almost every single battle you've been in, the exact plan that you want to see happen happens, because you put yourself in that position. You do what you need to do in that battle to get yourself into a position where you can win the match. So it's just ridiculous, because you might be down the entire battle, and it's almost like, just looking back at UFC when Chael Sonnen took on Anderson Silva, was destroying him the entire match, and then Anderson Silva got one chance to get him in a triangle lock and made Chael Sonnen tap out. And that's what you do. You might be down for the entire battle, but all you need is one opening, and it just changes the entire complexion of a battle in your favor. I think one of the biggest moments of that was just round 1, when you got that Magnezone in against the Bronzong, and you're able to trap it and take it out with the Magnet Rise, and that opened the door for Mega Guard to basically just win the battle by itself. And although Gypsy is good at executing strategies, you are like Bret Hart. You are the essence of execution. The excellence of execution? What was it? Oh, I forget what is.
I think that's cool.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be like an ass kisser here, guys, because Matty knows I'm not down for that kind of business. But it's just the truth. This season, you have your strategies, you've executed them, and you have a ridiculous differential for 8 weeks, by the way. For 8 weeks of matches, that differential is stupid. And again, against Danza, it was just the same thing. Danza has a scary team, a very, very scary team, but you did the right prep, and you got the results. So there's no way that I can shift you and Gypsy from the 2 spots that you were in. But do you see it differently?
You know what? First of all, thank you for all those kind words. I definitely I definitely see both myself and Gypsy being at the number 1 and 2 spot. I guess it's hard not to, just considering, the next person behind us is 6 and 2, so it's not like everybody's completely close at the top here. But I do have myself at number 2, and it was hard for me to put someone number 1 and 2 in this situation, because both Gypsy and I were very close friends, and I don't want to compare both of us having such a similar season so far. But one of the main reasons I put him at number 1 is because we actually played for the CPC, which is another league that we're in on the side right now, and he did come out on top this past week. So there was a decent amount of hacks involved in the battle. But this is the thing, like you mentioned before, some of his wins can be seen as hacksy, or fortunate, or whatever you want to call it. And that's just the thing. I mean, Gypsy is phenomenal. His team is really scary. And now he made a free agent transaction for Nidoking, I believe, which just makes his team all the more scary, as now he really has that extra wall breaking power in, cahoots with Mega Pinsir and Weavile, which is just so incredibly scary and hard to prepare for. But his battling skill and preparation are they're incredible. They're absolutely incredible, and he showed that against Jolt this week, beating one of the best draft league players I've ever seen so handily. But then, like you said about all the luck, I don't know, guys. I know it obviously has nothing to do with Gypsy. It has nothing to do with his intentions. Obviously, it's Pokemon, and it's just coincidence, but the guy consistently gets really lucky in all the league games I've seen him play, for the most part. I mean, not every single one, but the vast majority, he seems to be on the lucky end, and he's gotten a bunch of wins that could be partially attributed to luck. So to play someone who's so good, has such a scary team, and tends to get lucky is absolutely terrifying. And I don't know if you're aware of this, Bird, but Gypsy and I are actually playing this week.
Oh God.
Exactly.
Oh,
so that is one of the reasons I wanted to be on the power rankings this week, because we could really hype up the undefeated showdown, because to my knowledge, no one has ever gone 8-0 in the MPL. I believe Joel was 7-0 last season before he lost, and both Gypsy and I, not only broke the record, but more than one person was able to go 8-0. So I think it's definitely going to be exciting to see us clash this week. I'm just really hoping for a clean game, because I definitely am so close with Gypsy and would not mind losing to him fair and square. I just hope it doesn't happen the way it happened in our CPC match, because I don't know who would have won or lost. The hacks happened early in the match, but I think it would have been really interesting to see it play out, because I think that I prepped it and played well that game as well. So I'm really hyped for this. I hope everybody else in the league is too. Like I said, it's a good time to be a fan with all of these teams being so close together and the rankings being so tight. And then also having, the 2 undefeated teams finally kind of determining which one will come out on top on the power rankings and, have a more decisive number 1 spot. So really excited for that. And I just wish for the best game possible, really clean and just back and forth, really good prep and playing.
Yeah, exactly. That's all we expect from this league. Sure, hacks happens every now and then, guys, but we at the NPL don't wish hacks up anywhere. And yeah, Gypsy does get hacked every now and then, but 9 times out of 10, I would say the hacks is irrelevant. When it happens for him in a battle, the result is still going to be the same regardless of whether the hacks happens or not. He'll get the win, and he explains it in his video quite easily for you to understand, that even if they didn't happen, he had this, and these reasons as to why the result wouldn't have changed. So, as much as it is annoying that it does happen, at the same time, it's not frequently to the point where it's game-defining hacks, I guess, if that makes sense. But I think that definitely it's going to be an incredible battle. Definitely in the comment section, guys, either hashtag Team Matty or hashtag Team Gypsy. Let us know who you're supporting for this battle. I think I might even try and talk to Jolt about us doing a live recording of that battle if it's on Showdown. I would be down. But that's going to be incredible. Best of luck, obviously, to you and Gypsy for that battle. But best of luck to everybody for their Week 9 matches. It is getting to a very important part of the season, guys. As Matty and I have said, it is very, very close between teams probably ranked 13th to about, I'd say even 4th with Jolt in there. So all of those guys are within a couple of games of each other, and these results are now incredibly crucial. I guess as a coach, even just looking at it, it must be exciting for you to see such a close league that you're in.
Absolutely. Like I said before, and I'll say it again, it's just such a great time to be an NPL fan right now, and I'm really loving this. So I hope everyone, even if you're not doing particularly well at the moment, just holds on, keeps pushing for the next 4 weeks or so, and, really tries to do their best to bring it home and finish strong.
Exactly. Well, that is going to do it for us, guys. I have thoroughly enjoyed this recording session. It's gone a little bit longer than they normally would, but I think that's because you're just joined by two men who love to talk. And honestly, for a discussion video, you can't really ask for much more. But if you have enjoyed having me come back again as the illustrious host, then like this video, but like it even more if you enjoyed the inclusion of Matty, and let us know in the comments if there are any other coaches that you would really like to see join me for these power ranking videos. I am more than happy having any coach from the NPL join me for these things, because it is always a very enjoyable experience, and I just love seeing the insight from the coaches, looking at the things from their perspective, because obviously I don't converse as much, I guess, with a lot of the battlers the same way that the coaches do, so there is definitely a lot of ways that the coaches will reflect on things a bit different from a person whose sole job is to analyze, I suppose, if that makes sense. But I've just enjoyed this experience. Again, like, Matty, thank you for taking your time to join me, and again, best of luck trying to get to 9-0 in the NPL.
Thank you. I had a fantastic time as well, and I hope you all enjoyed in the viewer section. So definitely let us know with that type of support. We appreciate it so much. And yeah, Bird, thanks for having me.
No worries. That's going to do it for this week, guys. As I said, like this video. We'd love your support. Comment down below, not only if you like this video, but again, like I said, Team Matty or Team Gypsy for that Round 9 absolute showdown of the gods. And then also don't forget to subscribe not only to the NPL channel itself, but go check out every single one of the coaches, because getting all of their perspectives on all their battles is very important. It gives a really good insight into the coaches themselves. And also don't be afraid to check out all the analysts, because, some of us, we're pretty cool guys as well. We might not be great battlers of the NPL, but we're still okay.
Summer Showdown tournament.
Hey man, I mean, yeah, that was kind of wild. Anyway, that is gonna do it for us, guys. I will be back next week with more power rankings. Go check out Matty, as his battle against Gypsy will be up soon-ish, I guess, by the time this is uploaded. Mainly, I don't know. Editing's hard, but anyway, that's gonna do it for us. This has been TheVerd and the Brollic, and we out of here. Bye bye.